Kyle Harrison stood in the center of the massive chamber, his hands clasped behind his back as he looked up at the 12 alien faces staring down at him. The Galactic Council chamber was enormous, with walls that seemed to stretch forever into the darkness above. Each council member sat on a floating platform that hovered 30 feet in the air, arranged in a perfect circle around him. Kyle had been in this room dozens of times over the past 3 years, but today felt different. The air was thick with tension, and the usual polite murmurs were absent. Instead, there was only silence. He wore his best diplomatic uniform, dark blue with gold trim and the Earth insignia on his chest. His hair was graying at the temples now, a reminder that he had spent the best years of his life working toward this moment. 3 years of negotiations, compromises, and careful political maneuvering had led to this day. Earth's petition for membership in the Galactic Council would finally be voted on. Humanity would take its place among the stars as equals, not as newcomers begging for acceptance. Kyle cleared his throat and began his speech. His voice echoed through the chamber, strong and confident. He spoke about Earth's achievements, the technological leaps humanity had made in the decades since discovering faster-than-light travel. He talked about human culture, the diversity of languages, art, and philosophy that made Earth unique. He emphasized humanity's desire for peace and cooperation with all species. In the observation gallery above, Lieutenant Maya Foster watched intently. She was Kyle's aide, a young woman with sharp eyes and sharper instincts. Something about today made her nervous. The council members were too quiet, too still. Normally, they would interrupt with questions or comments, but today they just watched and waited. Maya's hand moved to the recording device on her belt, making sure it was capturing everything. Kyle reached the end of his speech and looked up at the council members with hope in his eyes. He had given everything to this mission, sacrificed years away from his family, endured countless setbacks and insults from species who viewed humans as primitive. But he believed in the dream of a united galaxy, where Earth could stand as an equal partner. Council Prime Zelthar rose from his platform. He was a Vraxian, a species that looked like walking lizards covered in dark scales and sharp ridges. His eyes were pure black without any visible pupils, and when he spoke, his voice was like gravel scraping against metal. The Vraxian Empire was the most powerful force in the galaxy, and Zelthar had ruled the Council for over 2 centuries. Ambassador Harrison, Zelthar said slowly, your words are eloquent as always, but words mean nothing without honor to back them. The Council has received disturbing reports about human activity in the outer reaches. Kyle felt his stomach drop. He had not expected this. Outer reaches? Council Prime, Earth has followed every protocol. We have established no colonies without proper authorization. That is a lie, Zelthar hissed. The word hung in the air like poison. Evidence has been presented to this council, showing that human ships have built illegal settlements on 3 worlds in the restricted zone. This is a direct violation of Protocol 7, which explicitly forbids emerging species from expanding beyond their designated sectors. Maya's blood ran cold as she watched from above. This was a setup. She knew it instantly. Earth had not violated any protocols. Someone had fabricated evidence, and the Council was using it as an excuse. But why? What did they gain from denying humanity's petition? Kyle's mind raced. He needed to stay calm to respond carefully. Council Prime, I assure you that Earth has established no such colonies. If there are human ships in the outer reaches, they are unauthorized and acting against Earth government orders. I request time to investigate these claims and provide a full report. There is no time, Zelthar said coldly. The evidence is clear and undeniable. This council has already voted on the matter in closed session. The verdict is unanimous. Kyle felt the world tilting beneath him. Closed session? They had already decided his fate before he even gave his speech. This entire day had been theater, a show for the galaxy to watch. What verdict? He asked, though he already feared the answer. Humanity has shown itself to be reckless and untrustworthy, Zelthar announced. You come before us asking for membership, while simultaneously breaking our most sacred laws. This cannot be tolerated. The Council has decided that an example must be made. Other emerging species must understand that the rules apply to everyone, regardless of ambition or potential. An example? Kyle's voice was barely a whisper now. The sentence is death, Zelthar said simply. Your execution will be broadcast across all Council worlds as a warning. Humanity's petition for membership is denied permanently. Earth will remain quarantined to its own sector, and any human ships found beyond the boundary will be destroyed without warning. The chamber erupted in chaos. Maya screamed from the gallery, but her voice was lost in the noise. Kyle stood frozen, unable to process what he had just heard. This could not be happening. He was a diplomat, protected by intergalactic law. They could not simply execute him, but they could, and they were. 6 Vraxian guards materialized around Kyle, their weapons drawn. He did not resist as they grabbed his arms and forced him to his knees in the center of the chamber. His mind was racing, searching for some way out, some argument that could save him, but there was nothing. The council had already decided. Kyle looked up at the observation gallery and locked eyes with Maya. She was crying, her hands pressed against the transparent barrier. He wanted to tell her so many things, wanted to apologize for failing in his mission, wanted to ask her to tell his family that he loved them. But there was no time. One of the guards activated a communication device, and suddenly every screen in the galaxy was showing Kyle's face. Millions of beings across hundreds of worlds watched as the human ambassador knelt before the council. This was the message being sent: defy us and die. Kyle took a deep breath. If these were to be his final moments, he would face them with dignity. He would not beg or plead. He would show the galaxy what humanity was made of. He looked directly into the nearest camera and spoke clearly. My name is Kyle Harrison, and I am the ambassador from Earth to the Galactic Council. I came here in peace, following every law and protocol. What is happening to me today is not justice. It is murder, plain and simple. The evidence against Earth is fabricated, and this council knows it. They are afraid of humanity, afraid of what we might become if given the chance to grow. Zelthar made a gesture, and one of the guards moved behind Kyle with a strange device. It looked like a metal rod with blue energy crackling along its length, a neural disruptor, designed to destroy the brain instantly while keeping the body intact. A cruel weapon. Kyle continued speaking, his voice growing stronger. To everyone on Earth who is watching this, I have one message. We came to the stars seeking peace and friendship. We believed that the galaxy would welcome us as equals. I was wrong. The Council sees us as a threat, something to be controlled or eliminated. Do not mourn me. Do not let my death be in vain. Remember what they did here today, and make sure that humanity never kneels before anyone again. The guard raised the neural disruptor. Kyle closed his eyes, thinking of his wife, his children, his home. He thought of blue skies and green grass, of laughter and warmth. He thought of everything he would never see again. Tell them, Kyle said softly, speaking to Maya one last time. Tell them we came in peace, but we will not die quietly. The disruptor activated with a high-pitched whine. Blue light filled the chamber for just a moment. Kyle Harrison, ambassador from Earth, died on his knees in front of the entire galaxy. Maya screamed again, but this time it was a scream of pure rage. She turned and ran from the observation gallery, her recording device clutched in her hand. The guards at the exits tried to stop her, but she was faster. She had been trained for this, trained for the worst-case scenario that no one thought would ever happen. She raced through the corridors of Unity Station, her mind focused on a single goal: escape and get the recording back to Earth. Alarms began blaring as the station's security realized she was fleeing. Maya dodged through crowds of aliens, all of them watching the execution on public screens. She could hear Zelthar's voice announcing that justice had been served, that humanity had been taught a lesson about humility and respect for galactic law. She reached the docking bay where the small diplomatic shuttle was parked. The pilot was dead, killed by Vraxian agents to prevent anyone from escaping. Maya did not hesitate. She had studied the shuttle's systems, knew how to fly it if necessary. She climbed into the pilot's seat, activated the engines, and punched through the docking bay doors before security could seal them. The shuttle accelerated away from Unity Station at maximum speed. Enemy ships pursued her, but she knew tricks they did not. She had spent 3 years learning everything about this region of space. Every asteroid field and debris cloud. She dodged and weaved, using every bit of cover she could find. Several times weapons fire came close enough to shake the shuttle, but she kept going. It took her 6 hours to reach the quantum tunnel that would take her back to human space. By the time she entered the tunnel, Maya was exhausted. The Pentagon was built to withstand nuclear war, But on this day it felt like the walls themselves were shaking with rage. Admiral Jake Morrison strode through the corridors with purpose, his jaw set and his eyes cold. Behind him walked General Chris Wade, head of Special Operations Command, and Dr. Helen Ross, director of the Advanced Weapons Division. They had been summoned for an emergency meeting in the deepest secure room in the building, a place that officially did not exist on any blueprints. Jake had watched the execution 3 times already. Each time his anger grew hotter and more focused. Kyle Harrison had been a good man, a friend, someone who genuinely believed that diplomacy could solve any problem. The council had murdered him for political theater, and now they would pay a price beyond their imagination. The secure room was already full when they arrived. President Linda Carter sat at the head of the table, her face a mask of controlled fury. Around the table sat the Joint Chiefs, intelligence directors, and key members of Congress who had the necessary security clearance. Every person in this room knew what was about to be discussed, and every person was ready for what came next. Linda spoke first, her voice quiet, but carrying absolute authority. 30 years ago, when we first developed faster-than-light travel, a small group of scientists and military leaders asked a simple question: what if first contact goes badly? What if the aliens we meet are hostile? We were told by optimists that such thinking was paranoid, that any species advanced enough for space travel would be peaceful. Well, now we know the truth. The galaxy is not a friendly place. She gestured to Dr. Helen Ross. Doctor, please brief everyone on Project Reaper. Helen stood up, a slim woman with steel gray hair and eyes that had seen too many classified horrors. She activated the holographic display in the center of the table, and a massive ship appeared, rotating slowly. It was unlike anything the public had ever seen. All sharp angles and weapon ports covered in armor that seemed to drink in light rather than reflect it. This is the ECS Retribution, Helen said. She is the lead ship of the Reaper-class dreadnoughts. We have 12 of them, built in secret shipyards beyond Neptune over the past 2 decades. Each ship is 3 miles long and carries enough firepower to sterilize a planet. They use reverse-engineered alien technology combined with human innovations, in fields that the Galactic Council has ignored or forbidden. The hologram changed to show various weapon systems. Singularity missiles that create controlled black holes at the target. Causality cannons that erase ships from the timeline itself. Quantum shields that phase the ship partially out of normal space, making it nearly impossible to hit. And reality anchors that prevent enemy ships from using their own faster-than-light drives, trapping them in normal space where our weapons have the advantage. One of the admirals spoke up. How is this possible? The Council has technology that is thousands of years ahead of us. How did we manage to build ships that can compete? Helen smiled grimly. Because we are human, and humans excel at warfare. The Council species have been at peace for so long that they have forgotten how to truly fight. Their weapons are designed for show, for intimidation. Ours are designed to kill as efficiently as possible. We studied every alien probe that crashed on Earth, every piece of wreckage from ancient wars, every scrap of information we could steal or buy. And we built something they never expected. General Chris Wade took over the presentation. My teams have been training for this scenario since the beginning. We have special forces operators who can infiltrate alien facilities using stealth technology that bends light and sound around them. We have developed weapons specifically designed to kill each of the major Council species, exploiting weaknesses in their biology and psychology. We have studied their military tactics and found them predictable and rigid. Chris changed the hologram to show a tactical map of known space. The Council believes they are untouchable. Unity Station is their seat of power, protected by defense platforms that have never been tested in real combat. Their home worlds are defended by fleets that exist mainly for parades and ceremonies. They have numbers, but they do not have the will to fight a real war. We do. President Carter stood up. The execution of Ambassador Harrison was an act of war. The Council thinks they have frightened us into submission. They think humanity will accept this judgment and retreat to our corner of the galaxy like obedient children. They are wrong. We are going to show them what happens when you kill a human diplomat. We are going to burn their empire to ash and build something better from the ruins. She looked around the table at each person. I am authorizing Project Reaper to become fully operational. Admiral Morrison, you will take command of the fleet. General Wade, your special forces will conduct raids on key council facilities. Dr. Ross, I want every weapon we have available and ready to deploy. We are not going to ask for permission. We are not going to negotiate. We are going to strike hard, fast, and without mercy until the Galactic Council is destroyed. Jake stood up. Madam President, I need someone to command the retribution. Someone who understands what we are about to do and can carry it out without hesitation. I already have someone in mind, Linda said. Captain Ben Tucker. He was passed over for promotion twice because he was too aggressive, too willing to break the rules. Those are exactly the qualities we need right now. Ben Tucker was in his, quarters on the lunar military base when the call came through. He had been watching the execution video like everyone else in the fleet, his hands clenched into fists. Ben was a career military officer, 42 years old with a record of successful but controversial missions. He had a reputation for getting results by any means necessary, which made politicians nervous but made his crew loyal unto death. The orders were simple. Report to Dock 7 immediately for assignment to the ECS Retribution. Ben did not need to be told what that meant. Everyone in the military knew about the Reaper program, even if they were not supposed to. The rumors had been circulating for years. Now those rumors were about to become reality. Dock 7 was hidden inside a crater on the far side of the moon, shielded from Earth's view and from any prying sensors. When Ben arrived, he stopped and stared. The Retribution was magnificent and terrifying, a warship built for a single purpose. She was death-made metal, and she was his. His crew was already assembling. Lieutenant Sophie Grant was his tactical officer, a genius at analyzing enemy formations and finding weaknesses. Commander Pete Sullivan was the chief engineer, a man who could coax performance out of machines that should not be possible. Commander Lisa Park was the weapons specialist, famous for her accuracy and her cold demeanor under fire. These were the best of the best, and they were all volunteers for what everyone knew would be a suicide mission. Ben addressed his crew in the main hangar. Several hundred men and women stood at attention, all of them wearing the new black uniforms that marked them as Reaper crew. I am not going to lie to you, Ben said bluntly. What we are about to do has never been attempted before. We are going to attack Unity Station, the most heavily defended location in the galaxy. We are going to destroy it, and then we are going to hunt down every member of the council that participated in Ambassador Harrison's murder. Many of us will not survive, but those who do will be part of the crew that changed history forever. He paused, looking at their faces. Young and old, men and women, every skin color and background humanity had to offer. The council thinks we are weak. They think they can kill one of us, and we will bow our heads and accept it. We are going to teach them a lesson that will echo for 1,000 years. We are going to show them what humanity does to those who hurt our own. The crew erupted in cheers. Ben let them shout for a moment, then raised his hand for silence. Get to your stations. We launch in 3 hours. By this time tomorrow, the galaxy will know that Earth is not to be trifled with. On Earth, President Carter addressed the world. Every television, every computer screen, every public display showed her face. She stood in the Oval Office, the American flag behind her. But she spoke for all of humanity. My fellow humans, she began. By now you have all seen what happened to Ambassador Kyle Harrison. He was murdered by the Galactic Council in an act of judicial terrorism designed to keep humanity in its place. They wanted to make an example of us. They wanted to show the galaxy that humans are not worthy of respect or consideration. Her voice grew harder. They were wrong. For 30 years we have been preparing for the possibility that the galaxy would not welcome us with open arms. We have built weapons and ships in secret. We have trained our military for a war that we hoped would never come. But now it has come, and we will not hide from it. Kyle Harrison's last words were that we came in peace but will not die quietly. I am here to tell the Galactic Council that we have heard his message. Starting now, Earth is at war with the Council. We will destroy Unity Station. We will bring every council member to justice for their crimes. And we will build a new order in the galaxy, one where emerging species are protected rather than executed. She leaned forward, staring directly into the camera. To the people of Earth, be strong. This war will be hard and costly, but we fight for. The quantum tunnel collapsed behind the retribution, and suddenly Unity Station filled the view screen. The massive structure hung in space like a jewel, its surface covered in lights from 1,000 windows and docking ports. Ships moved around it in orderly patterns, totally unaware of what was about to happen. The station's defense platforms orbited in a perfect sphere, their weapons pointed outward at empty space, waiting for threats that always came with plenty of warning. But the human fleet had not come through normal space. They had used quantum tunnels to bypass every sensor, every early warning system, every defensive measure that the Council relied on. Ben Tucker sat in his captain's chair and smiled coldly. The element of surprise was complete. "Status," Ben ordered quietly. Sophie's fingers moved across her tactical display. 7 ships total, including us. All systems operational. Enemy defense platforms number 240. Station security vessels number approximately 500, mostly light patrol craft. No capital ships in the immediate area. They were not expecting us, Lisa said from the weapons station. Her voice carried satisfaction. Their shields are down. Weapons are not powered up. This is going to be a slaughter. Ben did not feel any guilt about that. The Council had executed Kyle Harrison without warning, without mercy. They would receive the same consideration. All ships, this is Tucker. Execute Attack Plan Alpha. Target the defense platforms first, then the military vessels. Avoid civilian sections of the station unless fired upon from those locations. We are here to send a message, but we are not butchers. The fleet spread out into attack formation. Each ship had specific targets assigned. The Retribution took the central position, her massive guns aimed at the heart of Unity Station where the Council chamber sat. Fire at will, Ben commanded. The Retribution's main guns opened fire first. Beams of concentrated energy lanced across space, moving at the speed of light. The defense platforms never had a chance to react. One moment they were hanging peacefully in orbit. The next they were expanding clouds of plasma and debris. The beams punched through their shields like they were not even there, overloading the ancient technology with raw power. Lisa launched the Singularity missiles next. 12 small projectiles shot from the Retribution's tubes, accelerating to incredible speeds. Each missile contained a miniature quantum generator that, upon impact, would create a black hole the size of a marble, small but devastating. The missiles struck 6 different defense platforms simultaneously. For a brief moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then space itself began to twist and tear. The platforms crumpled inward, their metal screaming as it was compressed into impossible density. In seconds, 6 defense platforms ceased to exist, pulled into singularities that quickly evaporated in bursts of radiation. The other ships in the human fleet were equally effective. The ECS Vengeance targeted the northern defense grid with plasma cannons that melted through armor like butter. The ECS Defiance used railguns to punch holes through platform after platform, with solid projectiles moving at a significant fraction of light speed. The ECS Justice deployed swarms of autonomous drones that overwhelmed defense systems through sheer numbers. Unity Station's alarms finally began blaring. The Council had been in session, discussing routine matters when the attack began. Now they scrambled for safety, running for their personal ships while their guards tried to organize a defense, but it was too late. The human fleet was inside their perimeter, and the defense platforms that were supposed to protect them were already half destroyed. The Vraxian flagship, the Pride of Empire, was docked at Unity Station when the attack started. Its commander, Admiral Kreth, had been enjoying shore leave. Now he sprinted to his bridge, shouting orders at his crew. The Pride was a powerful vessel, over 2 miles long and equipped with weapons that could destroy cities. Kreth had commanded it for 30 years without ever seeing real combat. Today that would change. "Get us away from the station," Kreth roared. "Power up all weapons. Target the nearest human vessel and open fire." The Pride's engines activated, pushing it away from the docking port with emergency thrusters. Its weapons came online and Kreth felt a moment of confidence. His ship was a symbol of Vraxian military might. It had been built to intimidate lesser species. Now it would show these upstart humans their place. "Fire everything," Kreth ordered. The Pride's guns opened up, sending streams of energy toward the ECS Vengeance. The shots connected and Kreth allowed himself a smile. But then his smile faded. The human ship's shields were holding. The weapons that should have torn through armor were barely scratching the surface. Sophie noticed the Vraxian flagship's attack immediately. "Sir, enemy capital ship is engaging the Vengeance. Their weapons are not penetrating our shields." "Noted," Ben said calmly. "Lisa, show them what real weapons look like. Target the Pride of Empire. Use the causality cannon." Lisa's hands moved with practiced precision. The causality cannon was the most terrifying weapon humanity had developed. It did not just destroy ships. It erased them from history. The targeting system locked onto the Pride of Empire, calculating its exact position not just in space but in time. Then Lisa fired. There was no visible beam, no missile. One moment the Pride of Empire was there, firing its weapons desperately at the human fleet. The next moment it was simply gone. Not destroyed, not exploded, just absent as if it had never existed. The space where it had been was empty. On the Vraxian homeworld, the records that mentioned the ship's construction suddenly showed it had never been built. Admiral Kreth's family would have no memory of him serving on that ship, because in the new timeline he had served elsewhere. The causality weapon had reached back through time and prevented the ship from ever being launched. The effect on the remaining Council forces was immediate and terrifying. Ships that had been moving to engage suddenly reversed course, trying to flee. Defense platforms that were still operational powered down their weapons in surrender. The Council had weapons that could destroy worlds, but they had never seen anything that could erase things from existence itself. Ben watched the chaos on his tactical display with cold satisfaction. "Open a channel to all Council forces. Let me speak to them." Sophie activated the communication system. Ben's face appeared on every screen in the battle space, from the smallest patrol craft to the Council chamber itself. "Attention all Galactic Council forces," Ben said, his voice cutting through the confusion and fear. "I am Captain Ben Tucker of the Earth Concorded ship Retribution. You have 3 minutes to power down your weapons and surrender. Any ship or platform that continues to fight will be destroyed. Any ship that tries to flee will be erased from time. You murdered Ambassador Kyle Harrison. Now you will face justice for that crime." In the Council chamber, Zelthar watched the screens in growing horror. His perfect plan had fallen apart in minutes. The humans were supposed to be weak, easy to intimidate. Instead, they had brought weapons that made Council technology look like children's toys. How was this possible? How had they hidden such capability? "We must evacuate," one of the other Council members said, his voice shaking. "We must get to our ships and escape." "No," Zelthar hissed. "We still have the Doomsday weapon. It was installed in the station's core for emergencies. If we activate it, the entire system will be destroyed, including these human ships. But that will kill us as well," another Council member protested. "Better to die than surrender to these primitives," Zelthar said. He activated his personal communicator and sent an encrypted signal to the station's core. The Doomsday weapon began its activation sequence. On the Retribution, Sophie's console lit up with warnings. "Sir, I am detecting a massive energy buildup in Unity Station's core. It looks like some kind of planet-killer weapon. If it detonates, it will destroy everything in this system." Ben's jaw tightened. Time to detonation. 2 minutes and counting. Ben made his decision instantly. "Lisa, target the Council chamber with the main gun. Maximum power. Fire when ready." Lisa did not hesitate. The Retribution's main weapon was a particle beam that could cut through the crust of a planet. Focused on a single building, it was unstoppable. She locked onto the Council chamber's coordinates and fired. The beam crossed the distance between the Retribution and Unity Station in less than a second. It struck the chamber with the force of a nuclear explosion. The entire section of the station vaporized instantly. Zelthar and 5 other Council members died without even time to scream. The Doomsday weapon's activation sequence was interrupted as its control systems were destroyed. "Threat neutralized," Sophie reported. "The weapon's power buildup is collapsing. Station is no longer in danger of exploding." Ben nodded. "Cease fire on all targets. Repeat the surrender demand." This time the response was immediate. Every remaining Council ship powered down its weapons. Defense platforms broadcast surrender signals. Even the station itself lowered its shields. The battle was over. It had lasted less than 3 hours and the humans had won a total victory. Ben stood up from his captain's chair and walked to the view screen. Unity Station was crippled but still intact. Debris from destroyed platforms drifted through space. Escape pods were launching from ships there. The war that followed the destruction of Unity Station was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. For thousands of years, conflicts had been small and localized. settled more through diplomacy than actual fighting. The council species had forgotten what real war looked like. They were about to receive a brutal education. Admiral Jake Morrison commanded the overall campaign from the ECS Avenger, a dreadnought that served as the mobile command center for Earth's forces. His operations room was filled with tactical displays showing ship positions across dozens of star systems. Each display told the same story. Humanity was winning and winning decisively. The human fleet had split into strike groups, each targeting a specific council species. Ben Tucker's group focused on the Vraxian Empire, the most powerful and the one most responsible for Kyle Harrison's death. Other groups targeted the Zephrani Collective, the Orm Hegemony, the Crystalline Assembly, and the remaining council members who had voted for the execution. Jake studied the reports coming in from each strike group. The pattern was consistent. Human ships would arrive in a system without warning, destroy any military presence in hours, and then deliver an ultimatum: surrender and stand trial or face total destruction. Most worlds surrendered quickly once they saw what happened to those who resisted, but the Vraxian Empire refused to bend. They were proud warriors, rulers of over 100 worlds. They would not surrender to upstart humans, no matter the cost. So Ben Tucker and his fleet showed them what the cost would be. The Vraxian homeworld was called Vraxis Prime, a hot planet covered in deserts and volcanic mountains. The Vraxians had evolved in harsh conditions, which made them tough and aggressive. Their capital city, Imperium, housed over 50 million Vraxians and was protected by orbital defense stations that had never been defeated in battle. Ben's fleet emerged from quantum space just outside the defense perimeter. The Vraxian defense fleet was waiting for them this time. They had studied the footage from Unity Station and adapted their tactics. Over 3,000 ships formed a defensive wall between the human fleet and the planet. It was the largest concentration of military force in Vraxian history. They learned from our first attack, Sophie observed from her tactical station. They are keeping their shields up and weapons hot. They are not giving us an easy target. Good, Ben said. I was hoping they would fight. Lisa, deploy the drone swarms. The Retribution and its sister ships opened their cargo bays and millions of small drones poured out into space. Each drone was no bigger than a basketball, packed with explosives and a simple AI that had one mission: find an enemy ship and crash into it. The swarms formed clouds that stretched for thousands of miles, moving toward the Vraxian fleet like a plague of mechanical locusts. The Vraxian commanders watched the drones approaching and laughed. Their ships had point defense systems designed to shoot down missiles and fighters. These tiny drones would be easy prey. They opened fire with thousands of automated guns and drones began exploding by the hundreds. But there were millions of drones and only thousands of guns. For every drone destroyed, 10 more got through. They slammed into Vraxian hulls, their explosives designed to punch through armor and detonate inside. Ships began dying, not from massive explosions but from thousands of small breaches that let space in and air out. Crews scrambled to seal the holes, but there were too many. Ships went dark as their power systems failed. Others lost control and began tumbling through space. While the drones kept the Vraxian fleet busy, Ben's ships moved into firing positions. Target their command vessels, Ben ordered. Take out their admirals and the rest will fall apart. The Retribution's main gun spoke and a Vraxian battleship died. Lisa was working overtime, picking off capital ships with precision fire. Each shot was carefully aimed to hit the command decks where the senior officers were located. Without leadership, Vraxian crews did not know what to do. Some ships tried to flee. Others fought on mindlessly. None of it mattered. The human fleet cut through them like a blade through paper. The battle lasted 18 hours. When it was over, the Vraxian defense fleet was gone. Not a single ship remained functional. The orbital defense stations surrendered without firing a shot, their crews abandoning them in escape pods. Vraxis Prime lay open to attack, defenseless for the first time in its history. Ben opened a channel to the planet's surface. This is Captain Tucker to the Vraxian government. Your fleet is destroyed. Your defenses are gone. You have 1 hour to surrender, or we will begin orbital bombardment. We will turn Imperium into a crater and keep firing until you agree to stand trial for the murder of Kyle Harrison. Choose wisely. On the planet's surface, the Vraxian leaders argued in their war chamber. Some wanted to keep fighting, believing that surrender was worse than death. Others pointed out that continuing the fight would only result in genocide. The humans had proven they had the weapons to destroy Vraxis Prime completely. In the end, survival instinct won. The Vraxian government transmitted their surrender. They would hand over the officials who had been present at the council meeting. They would pay reparations to Earth. They would accept whatever judgment humanity imposed. Ben accepted the surrender, but he was not satisfied. The Vraxians had killed Kyle, and words were not enough. "Dr. Ross," he said over the secure channel to Earth, "I need the extinction protocol authorized for demonstration purposes only. I want to show the galaxy what we could do if we chose to." Helen Ross's face appeared on his screen from her laboratory on Luna. "Are you sure, Ben? Once we show that weapon, there is no going back. The galaxy will know we have the capability to end entire species." "They need to know," Ben said firmly. "They need to understand that mercy is a choice we are making, not a weakness they can exploit." President Carter gave the authorization. The extinction protocol was loaded onto the Retribution's weapon system. Ben selected a target, an uninhabited moon orbiting a gas giant in the Vraxian system. It was a barren rock, but it would serve as a demonstration. "Fire," Ben ordered. The weapon that launched from the Retribution did not look impressive. It was a small missile, barely larger than a person. But inside it was a device that would rewrite the molecular structure of anything it touched. The missile struck the moon's surface and detonated. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the moon began to change. The rock started to crumble, breaking apart at the molecular level. The process spread like a disease, moving outward from the impact point. In less than an hour, the entire moon had disintegrated into dust. It had not exploded. It had simply ceased to exist as a solid object, transformed into a cloud of loose atoms that would eventually drift away into space. Ben broadcast the footage to every world in the galaxy. "This is what we could do to any planet, any species that continues to resist. The Vraxian moon you just saw destroyed was uninhabited. We chose to spare Vraxis Prime. Other species might not be so lucky. Surrender now or face extinction." The message had its intended effect. Across the galaxy, council species began surrendering. The Zephyrini Collective capitulated within days. The Orm hegemony offered reparations and promised to hand over their leaders. The Crystalline Assembly, a species made of living crystal, shattered their own government and begged for mercy. But a few species still resisted. The Thaxian Protectorate believed they could negotiate, could find some compromise that would let them avoid punishment. They sent diplomats to meet with Admiral Morrison, hoping to appeal to human reason. Jake met with the Thaxian delegation on the Avenger. They were tall, thin beings with skin like silver metal and eyes that glowed with internal light. They spoke smoothly, using logic and reason to argue that continuing the war served no purpose. Kyle Harrison was dead and could not be brought back. More killing would not honor his memory. Jake listened to their arguments patiently. Then he stood up and pointed to a screen showing Kyle's execution. "Do you see this man? His name was Kyle Harrison. He was a husband, a father, and a friend to many. The council killed him to make a point. Well, we are making a point too. Justice is not negotiable. You participated in his execution. Now you will face trial. And if we refuse," the Thaxian diplomat asked, "then we will reduce your worlds to rubble." Jake said simply, "We will destroy your fleets, your stations, your colonies. We will keep destroying until you have nothing left. And then when you are weak and broken, we will take what remains and build something better on top of it." The Thaxian diplomat tried one more time. "You claim to be better than the council, but you are acting just like them. You are using force to impose your will." "No," Jake corrected. "The council used force to maintain their power and kill anyone who challenged them. We are using force to bring murderers to justice. There is a difference, and if you cannot see it, then you deserve what is coming." The Thaxian delegation returned to their homeworld and reported the failure of negotiations. Their government made a fatal decision. They would fight. They mobilized their fleets and prepared for a defensive war. They believed that humans would tire of fighting eventually, that the cost would become too high. They were wrong. Humans had fought wars lasting decades on their own world. They understood attrition and sacrifice in ways the council species. 6 months had passed since Kyle Harrison's execution, and the galaxy was unrecognizable. The Galactic Council no longer existed. Unity Station had been repaired and converted into the headquarters of the Terran Concordat, a new governing body built on principles very different from its predecessor. Where the old council had ruled through intimidation and ancient privilege, The Concordat governed through strength and clear rules that applied to everyone equally. President Linda Carter stood on the observation deck of the rebuilt station, looking out at the stars. She had aged in these months, the stress of war leaving lines on her face that had not been there before, but she had achieved what she set out to do. Kyle Harrison had been avenged, and humanity had secured a place in the galaxy that no one could ever take away. Admiral Jake Morrison entered the deck and stood beside her. He wore his dress uniform, decorated with medals from the campaign. Tomorrow he would officially become the first Lord Commander of the Concordat Defense Forces, a position that gave him authority over military operations across the entire galaxy. Having second thoughts? Jake asked quietly. Every day, Linda admitted. We killed millions to avenge one man. Was it worth it? Jake thought about that for a long moment. Kyle was not just one man. He represented an idea. The idea that humans could be part of the galactic community as equals. The Council killed him to prove that idea was wrong. If we had accepted that if we had done nothing, then humanity would have been slaves forever. So yes, it was worth it. I hope history agrees with you, Linda said. History is written by the winners, Jake replied with a slight smile, and we won. The next day, the inaugural session of the Terran Concordat began. Representatives from over 200 species filled the assembly hall, a space much larger than the old council chamber. Every species had an equal vote, and decisions required majority support rather than unanimous consent. The rules were designed to prevent any single species from dominating, and to ensure that emerging species had protection from those who were more established. The first order of business was to ratify the Concordat Charter, a document that laid out the rights and responsibilities of member species. It included provisions that would have been unthinkable under the old council: freedom of travel and settlement, protection for minority species, mandatory arbitration of disputes, and strict prohibitions on the kind of political executions that had killed Kyle Harrison. Admiral Morrison took his oath as Lord Commander in front of the full assembly. I swear to protect the peace, defend the weak, and ensure that no species ever suffers the injustice that Earth suffered. I will use the power entrusted to me not for conquest or glory, but to build a galaxy where all beings can live without fear. The assembly erupted in applause. Some of it was genuine, some was motivated by fear, but it did not matter. The Concordat had the power to enforce its will, and everyone knew it. The human fleet remained the most powerful military force in the galaxy by a large margin, and no one was foolish enough to challenge that supremacy. Ben Tucker was promoted to admiral and given command of the Outer Territories fleet, responsible for patrolling the frontier regions where new species were most likely to be discovered. His mission was to ensure that what happened to Earth never happened to anyone else. The Retribution would serve as his flagship, a visible reminder of what happened to those who preyed on emerging species. On his first patrol, Ben's fleet discovered a new species that had just achieved faster-than-light travel. They were called the Keleth, a peaceful people who lived on water worlds and had developed technology through collective consciousness, rather than individual innovation. They were exactly the kind of species that the old council would have exploited or subjugated. Ben made contact personally, his face appearing on their primitive view screens. I am Admiral Ben Tucker of the Terran Concordat. We come in peace and welcome you to the galactic community. Unlike the old council, we do not demand tribute or submission. We offer protection, trade, and friendship. You will be given a seat in the Concordat Assembly and full rights as a member species. The Keleth were suspicious at first, having heard stories of the terrible humans who had destroyed the old order, but Ben was patient. He sent gifts of technology and medicine. He stationed ships in their territory to defend them from raiders and pirates. He proved through actions that the Concordat meant what it said. Slowly, the Keleth came to trust humanity. They became one of the first new species to voluntarily join the Concordat, and their example encouraged others. The message spread. Humanity was harsh to those who harmed the innocent, but generous to those who sought peace. Dr. Helen Ross continued her work developing weapons, but now she also focused on peaceful applications of the same technology. The quantum drives that powered human warships were adapted for civilian use, cutting travel times between worlds from weeks to days. The reality anchors that had trapped enemy fleets in battle were modified to stabilize wormholes, making interstellar travel safer and easier. The extinction protocol remained classified, a weapon of last resort that everyone knew existed but hoped would never be used again. General Chris Wade's special forces transitioned from raiders to peacekeepers. They deployed to troubled regions where local conflicts threatened to spiral out of control. They trained local security forces in human tactics and technology. They became the Concordate's rapid response team, able to arrive anywhere in the galaxy within hours to deal with emergencies. Maya Foster became the Concordate's chief diplomat, a position that carried bitter irony given how Kyle had died in the same role. But Maya understood that the galaxy needed someone who could speak for humanity without threatening war every time there was a disagreement. She worked tirelessly to build relationships with other species, to find common ground and forge alliances based on mutual respect rather than fear. On the one-year anniversary of Kyle's death, a memorial was built on Luna, where the Reaper fleet had launched from. It was a simple monument, a statue of Kyle in his diplomatic uniform standing with his hand extended in greeting. At the base were his final words carved in stone. "Tell them we came in peace, but we will not die quietly." The dedication ceremony drew thousands of people. President Carter gave a speech that was broadcast throughout human space and beyond. Kyle Harrison believed in the best of humanity and the possibility of a better galaxy. His death could have made us bitter and cruel. Instead, we chose to honor his memory by building something he would have been proud of. The Concordate is not perfect, but it is better than what came before. We will continue to improve it, to make it worthy of the sacrifice that Kyle and so many others made. Maya placed flowers at the base of the statue, tears streaming down her face. She had carried the weight of Kyle's death for a year, feeling responsible for surviving when he had not. But now, looking at what humanity had built, she felt a sense of peace. Kyle had not died for nothing. His death had changed everything. Ben Tucker attended the ceremony in uniform, standing with his crew from the Retribution. Sophie, Pete, and Lisa were there, along with hundreds of other crew members who had fought in the campaign. They were celebrated as heroes, but they did not feel like heroes. They had done what was necessary, nothing more. After the ceremony, Ben visited the statue alone. He stood there in silence for a long time, thinking about the war and its cost. Millions had died in the fighting. Entire worlds had been left in ruins. Families had been destroyed, cultures disrupted, futures stolen, all because one man had been killed by a council too proud and stupid to understand what they were unleashing. Was it worth it? Ben asked the statue, echoing the question that Linda Carter had asked. Did we do the right thing? The statue did not answer, but Ben thought he knew what Kyle would have said. Kyle had believed in peace, but he had also believed in justice. He would have wanted the council held accountable, even if he would have preferred it happen through diplomacy rather than war. Ben had given the galaxy justice delivered with fire and blood. History would judge whether it had been the right choice. The galaxy settled into its new reality over the following years. The Terran Concordate grew stronger, adding new members regularly. Trade flourished between worlds now that the old council's restrictive rules were gone. Scientific cooperation led to breakthroughs that benefited all species. The human fleet kept the peace, intervening when necessary to stop conflicts before they could escalate. There were still problems, of course. Some species resented human dominance and plotted rebellion. Pirates and criminals tested the Concordate's defenses, looking for weaknesses. Political factions within the Assembly competed for influence and power. But these were normal problems, the kind that could be solved through negotiation and law rather than war. The Vraxians, humbled by their defeat, became unlikely allies of humanity. They understood strength and respected those who had beaten them fairly. Their warriors joined the Concordate Defense Forces, bringing their combat experience to help train others. The irony was not lost on anyone that the species most responsible for Kyle's death had become some of humanity's strongest supporters. In the New Order, Admiral Morrison commanded the Concordate forces for 15 years.